bought Bitcoin in 2013 at $200. My thesis was this is a 10-year bet, and I think it's worth $1 million, but I'm going to discount myself by 90% for the moron factor. So therefore it's worth $100,000, and it's at $200. And I said, this is the best macro bet we will ever be given, and the best macro bet we have ever been given. That was 2013. I was pretty impressed if I look back, because it was exactly the case. So I rode it up, and it went up to 5x from where I bought it. Then it collapsed 85%. And I'm like, fine, it's an option for me. It's a 10-year bet. It then ran up 10x into 2017. 4 years later, I'm up 10x. And I got a bit nervous in the space because of forking wars and other stuff. And I stupidly forgot the initial premise of the trade, which was this 10-year bet, you just run it. Because when the P&L stacks up, you start thinking, well, really, do I want to give this back? You've got to learn how to do that if you're running long duration time horizons. So I sold out at 2,000, 2,500, and it went up to 20,000 in that run. And people were laughing at me, and I was like, look, I've made 10x, thank you very much. I've done this really, really well. And then I watched it, and then eventually got the entry point to get back in again, which was April 2020, and it fell back down. I think I got in 6,500 and bought it, from 6,500 to about 12,000 and kept buying it, and it rocketed higher and much bigger position than when I first started. Okay, great. I still own it today. It's pulled back up again. Okay. So I went back and looked. If I just kept my original investment and not touched it, even with the market down from its high, 50%, I've made 5 times as much money. And my bet in 2020 was a lot bigger than it was back in 2013. And then here's the real crux. And me and Backwards Baseball Cat Brian were talking about this before we came on, is like, if you just remember that log channel and the big cyclical up and downs, which is the economic cyclicality, if you just buy within 30% of the low, which is not that difficult, 30%, don't even have to be bottom ticking it. I just calculated I got 30% near the low. If you'd have just added my original bet, which wasn't that big, it would have been 25 times as much performance. And that was the lesson learned. That's why I didn't sell a single thing, and I kept buying. My duration really for this is, I will probably take some off the table in this trade, but my duration, my real bet is to run most of it until 2030. That's always been the game, and it remains the game for me. Obviously, peel off some lifestyle gains, do whatever you need to do, appease the wife, that kind of stuff. But I think 2030 is the horizon. But you do you, I do me. I have a stomach for risk. I've been doing this for a long time. I actually enjoy the risk of crypto. I enjoy the shit throwing when it goes down 70%. I'm buying like crazy, and everybody else is like, you bastard, it's terrible, it's the worst investment ever. And then you go back 3 years later, it's like 10x where they were all selling it. It's a ridiculous business, but it's a lot of fun as long as you understand the game that you're in. If your game is you need those profits, for goodness sake, take the bloody profits.
And that